as hell, bro.
He was malnourished.
Yeah, for sure.
Marcus Smart is clapping back at Jayson Tatum, and things are getting downright ugly. After signing with the Los Angeles Lakers, Smart knew that backlash from Boston Celtics fans was inevitable. He openly admitted he was bracing for the hate, saying he expected plenty of boos and criticism. What he didn't see coming, however, was Jayson Tatum seemingly throwing subtle shade his way, sparking a heated response from Smart that has now taken their strained relationship into the public spotlight. The way Smart addressed Tatum was far from subtle. It was direct, sharp, and messy. Let's unpack everything that's gone down, from Smart's shocking decision to join the Lakers to his response to Tatum, and how the fracture between them has been brewing for years. The summer of 2025 was shaping up to be a year of change for several NBA teams, with many entering rebuild mode or reshuffling their rosters, but nobody could have predicted the move that shook the basketball world. Marcus Smart, long considered the emotional heartbeat of the Boston Celtics, signed with their most hated rival, the Los Angeles Lakers. This wasn't just a free agency signing, it was a betrayal that felt like a dagger straight to the hearts of Celtics fans everywhere. Smart, who had given nearly a decade of his career to Boston, had always embodied the team's gritty, hard-nosed identity. Now, he was switching sides, donning the purple and gold of the enemy. For Celtics fans, the move presented a dilemma. Should they continue supporting Marcus Smart, knowing that rooting for him now meant cheering for the Lakers? Or should they root against him and hope he fails, essentially turning their backs on a player who had bled green for 9 years? The emotional conflict ran deep. To understand how devastating this move truly was, you need to understand who Marcus Smart was to Boston, the 2022 NBA Defensive Player of the Year. Smart joined the Lakers in July 2025 after finalizing a buyout with the Washington Wizards. He wasn't just another player on the roster, he was a symbol of the Celtics' identity. Known for his hustle, defensive intensity, and willingness to do the dirty work, Smart won over the Boston faithful with his relentless energy. He embodied the franchise's blue-collar spirit and gave everything he had every time he stepped on the court. That's what made his switch to the Lakers so gut-wrenching. Smart himself recounted how the move came together. He explained how he initially brushed off interest until Luka Doncic reached out again, and it finally hit him that this wasn't a what-if anymore, it was real. They needed to have a serious conversation about it. Smart's bond with Boston ran deep. He wasn't a journeyman hopping from team to team. Drafted 6th overall by the Celtics in 2014. He spent 9 seasons with the franchise, making the playoffs every single year and reaching the Eastern Conference Finals 5 times. He was there through the rebuilds, the heartbreaks, and the deep playoff runs that fell just short of a championship. He was the one constant in a sea of change. His accolades include 3 All-Defensive First-Team selections and 3 NBA Hustle awards, further solidifying his role as a defensive cornerstone. Smart was the type of player who would dive headfirst into the stands to save a loose ball or take a charge against a player twice his size. Ball, the little things that win games but don't show up in box scores. Then came the trade in 2023 that marked the beginning of the end. Smart was shipped off to the Memphis Grizzlies in a deal that brought Kristaps Porzingis to Boston. While the trade made sense from a basketball standpoint, Boston needed Porzingis' size and offensive versatility. Felt like the soul of the team had been ripped out. For Celtics fans, it was a bitter pill to swallow. Adding insult to injury, Smart missed out on Boston's 2024 championship. After his departure, the Celtics finally broke through and won it all, a title he had fought for year after year. The cruel irony, the team he helped build, the culture he established, achieved the ultimate goal without him. Smart's time in Memphis was short-lived and plagued by injuries. He appeared in only 20 games in his first season, and the version of Smart the Grizzlies thought they were getting never quite materialized. Instead of anchoring their defense, he spent much of the season on the sidelines. The franchise soon realized they had overpaid for a player who was no longer at his peak. By February 2024, Smart was dealt to the Washington Wizards in a multiplayer trade, mostly for salary purposes. His stint in Washington was forgettable, just 15 games, with limited minutes as the team focused on developing younger talent and positioning themselves for a high draft pick. For someone who once thrived in the heat of playoff battles, this must have felt like basketball purgatory. The Wizards, recognizing Smart no longer fit their rebuild, granted him permission to explore other opportunities before negotiating a buyout. Smart eventually found a lifeline in the Lakers, one of the few remaining places where he could realistically contend for another title. He recalled how Luka Doncic reached out to personally recruit him, saying he was building something special and needed Smart's help. That personal appeal meant something to him. Still, out of all the teams Smart could have joined, the Lakers were the absolute worst-case scenario for Celtics fans. The Celtics-Lakers rivalry is the most iconic in NBA history, with 18 titles for Boston and 17 for LL. The competition isn't just about basketball, it's about legacy. It's about culture. It's about decades of animosity. Smart's decision to join the Lakers, especially after Boston narrowly regained the title lead, struck an especially painful chord. As soon as the news hit, Celtics fans flooded social media with heartbreak and fury. Posts on X were filled with messages of betrayal and disbelief. Marcus Smart is a Laker, being a Celtics fan right now as hell. One user wrote. NBA commentator and die-hard Celtics fan Bill Simmons didn't hold back either, sharing a meme that summed up the collective heartbreak of Boston's loyalists. One fan shared a podcast reaction that perfectly captured the emotional toll. Living in a world where Luka Doncic and Marcus Smart, my favorite players, are on my least favorite team, I feel personally attacked. Another said, it's like breaking up with your girlfriend, and 2 weeks later, you see her with your brother, and your brother never told you. That's the kind of betrayal Celtics fans felt. Smart himself wasn't blind to the backlash he would receive during his introductory press conference with the Lakers. He openly said he was expecting a lot of boos and hate. He acknowledged that he understood the emotions involved, showing that he was fully aware of the symbolic line he had crossed. But if the emotional fallout from Smart's move wasn't enough, the situation was made even more explosive by the long-standing tension between Marcus Smart and Celtics franchise star Jayson Tatum. To understand why Smart's comments about Tatum cut so deep, you have to rewind to a pivotal moment in November 2021. On November 1, 2021, after the Celtics blew a 19-point lead and lost 128-114 to the Chicago Bulls, Marcus Smart did something no one expected. He publicly criticized Tatum and Jay Brown. The team had started the season 2-5, and frustrations were bubbling over. But Smart's post-game comments stunned everyone. He said, "Every team knows we're going to go to Jayson and Jalen. They don't want to pass the ball." He emphasized that the duo needed to learn how to move the ball and trust their teammates. These weren't veiled remarks. They were direct shots at the teams to franchise cornerstones. That one sentence, "they don't want to pass the ball," sent shockwaves through the locker room. It wasn't some off-the-record comment or anonymous source. This was Marcus Smart, the emotional leader of the team, publicly calling out its top two players. The implications were massive. The timing made it even worse. Tatum had just scored 2 points on 1-for-8 shooting in the fourth quarter, and Brown hadn't scored at all. The offense was stagnant, and Smart's criticism felt like he was airing the team's dirty laundry at its lowest point. Tatum later revealed on J.R. Redick's podcast that he was completely caught off guard by Smart's comments. He didn't expect that kind of critique to come publicly and made it clear that there had been no prior discussion between the two. His tone suggested that he had been blindsided, and that wound didn't heal easily. In the aftermath, Celtics president Brad Stevens stepped in to smooth things over. He downplayed the tension, emphasizing that these things should be handled internally. He even noted that Smart, Tatum, and Brown had breakfast the next day and talked things out. On the surface, it seemed like the matter had been resolved. But for those paying close attention, it was clear the relationship had changed. The chemistry between Smart and Tatum began to feel more forced. What had once been a natural bond now appeared strained. While the Celtics still made it to the 2022 NBA Finals, the underlying friction between their leaders never completely disappeared. Despite their on-court success, something had shifted beneath the surface, and now, with Smart in a Lakers jersey and calling out Tatum again, the past is resurfacing in the ugliest way possible.